Hey everybody, Paymarine here with another attempt at Coherent Thought, and today's subject is going to be hobby motivation. And I guess kind of more specifically, or I don't know, because this is an attempt at a coherent thought, maybe not so specifically, but how I stay motivated, how I stay charged and ready to hobby on. Now, I will say there's that phrase or that World War II campaign kind of slogan thing that went around in Britain that was "Stay calm and carry on," with the German Air Force, or I should say Nazi Air Force, was bombing London and just bombing the British people so much that they had that kind of a campaign of just, you know what, like we're British, we're strong, we're gonna keep calm and carry on type of thing. So in the same sense, keep calm and hobby on. It's kind of a catchphrase, kind of something, obviously that keep calm and carry on has had many iterations through various different types of marketing, media, whatever you want to say. So I guess I'm going to jump on that bandwagon as well and say keep calm and hobby on. And I guess what I mean by that is sometimes the things can just get so overwhelming. With the speed of the releases that GW comes out with, the rules changes, the new books, like everything is just so rapid. And then on top of it, we have our regular everyday lives. Like some of us are lucky enough, maybe you're a game store owner, or you're a commissioned painter, or whatever it might be, that you get to make that your full-time endeavor. And so it's a little bit easier to kind of separate when you're at work to when you're at family. But for a lot of people, it's not their everyday job. So it's hard when you're juggling all these other different things. I will say it would be a lot easier if I was single and have a family. However, I would be lacking that in my life. And again, that's not like it's a bad thing that, that type of life isn't for everybody anyway. Like there's a lot of people that, don't want to settle down. And when I look at my unpainted minis, I just think of all the painting that could be done if I was. But like I said, it's definitely rewarding in its own right. For sure, like, I mean, if I had to tomorrow, reluctantly a bit, maybe, I would shove all my models in the garbage if I had to pick one or the other, family or models. Obviously, for myself, it'd be family. I don't know if anybody thought I was going to say models, but it would be in the end family. But like I said, it can be a very hard balance. So what are some tricks of, I guess this is going to morph into not only hobby motivation, but I guess maybe hobby balance, life balance in when you have everything going on, because it's a definite challenge. And I feel like right now I'm in probably one of my longest streaks where I haven't really got any major projects done like I wanted to. This time of the year though, I hit birthdays. I have a multitude of birthdays. Like my kids were born like 1 month after another, like years apart, but I've got a birthday in October, 2 birthdays in November, and an anniversary, followed by in America here Thanksgiving. Then in December I have another birthday, and then we have our Christmas celebrations, and then right into New Year's. So the end of the year for me a lot of times is a big wash, as well as a lot of money getting spent on birthday gifts and just food and preparations and traveling and seeing family and all kinds of stuff like that. So it gets very, very busy for me. And like I said, just the money aspect of it. And then, of course, Games Workshop doesn't care. They're going to keep releasing things. They're going to keep releasing things that I want to get. And unfortunately for myself, I kind of have I don't know if an issue or a problem necessarily of like where I want to get them when they first come out, because generally that it's more or less me being lazy, because generally those first models that get molded and like printed or whatever you want to say and come out have less flash, less defects and things that need to be addressed later. So I can definitely wait and hold off when a better time arises, but a lot of times I'll try to like not for lack of a better term. And then a lot of times too, which is really unfortunate, and they've kind of backed away from it, but I feel like they still have their moments. Where sometimes things are only out for a certain amount of time. A lot of their boxed games are only out for however many months they're out. And then if they're once they're gone, they're gone. Like they only print so many, and then once they're done, they're done. So that's kind of a struggle too. So finding the balance is always gonna be a struggle and always gonna be different in everybody's lives. For myself, that balance oftentimes is either going, and the other thing too about this is like while I say balance, I don't even think I by any means have a decent enough or good balance even in my own life with this, just because it is so hectic. And to during the day, like I will at times try to find a little bit of time to myself to be able to paint or to build. The building thing is a little bit easier. It's the painting that gets harder because obviously I can't just, as hard as I might try sometimes, be like, hey, I just need and again, you can't even say a few minutes because it takes time to paint and stuff. So if I just need like an hour or a couple hours is a stretch, but if I were to just ask for an hour, it's really difficult to get that hour because then I have to throw all the kids and my wife, who was already there with them all day while I was at work, and she wants some downtime too. So even trying to ask for and get that other hour can be difficult. But yeah, you gotta kind of give and take. Since my kids are younger, once they get older, they're a little bit more self-sufficient. It'll definitely get easier. Because right now, when I try to paint, even during that hour, like obviously I can't realistically expect my wife to keep them all corralled with all their energy and everything away from me, because they also haven't seen me all day and they want to see me. So they will often come in and they'll watch me paint and stuff like that. But there's other times where I'll be painting and I get like a bump or a nudge, or I'm like, like no, like just careful, kids, careful. So it's definitely hard. So unfortunately for me, or not necessarily unfortunately, but usually what happens then is that I find myself then forced to do all my painting late at night. So that can be difficult for people that, sleep is a commodity. I'll say I like sleep as in it's a necessity for a person to live healthy. But I do find it an immense waste of time. I'm definitely not one that, obviously once I'm asleep, it's great and I feel rested in the next morning, but I don't know, I just hate the idea and the thinking of that. There's just so many other things I could be doing right now. That's, I would say on average I get 5 to 6 hours a night. And, for some people they need more than that. I think and who knows, maybe I'm taking years off the end of my life, because they say, studies show, they say, oh yeah, you need at least, the human body needs at least 8 hours of sleep a night. I don't know, I don't think I could ever, anytime I do sleep that long, I wake up and I'm just, sore and I feel miserable and stuff because I feel like I've slept too long. But yeah, so because I'm able to at least function somewhat, well, I say somewhat, I'm able to still function on 5 hours fairly fine. Anything less than that, and it starts to get a little dicey, especially if you do that many days in a row. I will say, I find if I do get, I'd say 4.5 is usually my minimum before I'm really starting to hurt the next day. And then if I do that a few nights in a row, then I would say by day 4 or 5, I will just come home after work sometimes and I'll just crash. I'm just dead. But like I said, so I try not to do that too often. I try to just keep my painting to an hour or two a night once everybody's gone to bed, to try to fit in my time, because really that's about the only time I can really get some good hobby time in. Like I said, because anything else is just a bit unfair. And I still try to fit it in during the day too, because at the same time, while yes, it's unfair, you do have to have that kind of communication too. And look, for me, my wife is, I'll say, semi-understanding of the hobby. She's never fully come on board with it, as far as she's interested, but she's not I don't know, not as much as other spouses and stuff are. She has her own hobbies, and we have our own hobbies together. This is just not one of them. So So she's understanding too, though, because she understands that, like, I have so much other stuff going on. I don't want to stay up all night just to, to paint and build. I would like to sleep so I'm not, at the end of the week dying. So, I mean, there is some give and take there. So when she's able to or whatever, she may take the kids out to the park or something like that and realize, sometimes I just need a little extra time, if I can, to just get some painting done. So that's just a communication thing, if anything, as far as the balance of the hobby. If you have a family that obviously you want to spend time with and wants to spend time with you, it's just definitely trying to communicate and setting some good rules and boundaries and stuff such as that. And again, nobody's perfect, and you'll slip up one way or the other, and it is what it is. And obviously, if you have that open communication, it shouldn't be. It'll be like, yeah, I'm sorry. I was trying to really get this one thing done. I know the kids are screaming and yelling while I'm trying to paint and whatever, but it's done. I'm sorry. How about I watch the kids for the day and you go to the whatever spa, movies with your friends or whatever, something like that, just to make it up, because like I said, those things will happen, and it is what it is. So that's a little bit, I guess, kind of the balance and kind of my own little struggles and things that I've had as far as the balance side of things. Now, staying hobby motivated. This is something else I think everybody kind of starts to struggle with at some point throughout the hobby. And how do I stay motivated is really, I guess, boils down to, I would say, as simple as, but it's not necessarily always simple, because it will always be different for everybody. But I will say, diversifying my hobby as far as like what I'm working on, because you can get, like, if you're painting the same thing, whatever you're painting and working on one army, and now this is where it could be kind of restrictive as far as your particular, I guess, budget in a way, I guess, because if you only have enough to work on one army, because I fortunately have built up enough of a collection, I have enough of a to-do pile that I have enough diversity as far as, like, if I get tired of painting Space Marines, I can work on my Tau. If I get tired of working on my Tau, I can work on my, I don't even know, like, my new Elysium project I've been working on. If I get tired of that, I've got Tyranids. If I get tired of that, I've got Death Watch, I've got Alpha Legion, I've got Blackstone Fortress now. I'm just trying to look around and see, like, what I got on my to-do list. And I've got another few projects that are hobby related that are still kind of under wraps, because hopefully that'll come to fruition a little bit later. I did share some of my 3D printed props that I got, like full-size replicas of things that hopefully I'll be able to get to and get those figured out. But yeah, so it's really just kind of trying to diversify the hobby. And if you only have, like, I guess, one army you're working on, the thing where you can diversify that is, take a break from building and start painting a unit. And if you're painting and you need a break from painting, start building. And if you're tired of kind of both of those, you can start doing conversions, start looking at things that, maybe I want to do this, or, add tidbits here and there and kind of dive more into the converting realm of things. And if all of that is you're just whatever, then really you might just need to take a break. That's not a bad thing to take, like, a week off or 2 weeks, or depending, you can even take a month, like whatever you need to kind of just refresh and reset. Because a lot of times I find that I've taken a break from some projects, and I'm just like, I'm looking at it, I'm like, man, I'm just like, just feel so reluctant getting back to painting that army, because I just got done. Like, it's been however long working on these other projects, and I'm still looking back, I'm like, man, I'm just dreading getting back to that. But often what will happen, or what I find, is as I grab that other, the model that I was painting just nonstop for a few months, and then I took a break, and I'm coming back to it, and I start painting it at what was once dread, is like, what? It's actually nice getting back to this. It's nice seeing these guys, start to shape into something again. And then, before I know it, I'm motivated again to, let's knock this unit out. And like, yeah, man, these look awesome. And like, each color that gets done, it's just one step closer to just, you start to see the model form and shape more and more in front of your face. And it's just like, wow, this is just like, it's like sculpting clay, like taking a piece of clay out. And before, it's like, I think it was what Da Vinci always said, like, the sculpture's already there in the marble. You just have to remove the extra. And it's kind of the same there. It's like the model's already there. It's in your hands, obviously, but you're just adding the paint to bring it to its full realization. That's kind of like one of my own kind of motivations as I'm painting, just to see, I mean, you literally get to see the product of your work right in front of you. Something else, too, that can kind of potentially help is... and everybody's guilty of it, and it's kind of a hard thing to get away from. But Terry Crews, if you're not familiar who Terry Crews is, definitely Google search him. He was a pro football player. He's an actor now and been in a lot of movies, and more notably, he's on Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Great show, by the way. But he is also a painter. He paints portraits and stuff like that, and he also had a partial art scholarship when he was in college playing college football. When I say football, American football for anybody outside the States. So with that, he definitely kept going with that, and he recently did like kind of a holiday special thing here in the States on TV, and he was painting a Christmas scene. It was a very kind of Bob Ross style kind of thing where he was just kind of painting and talking and going through it, and he made a very profound statement, and I feel like it's kind of popped up in memes and things here and there across the internet. But he said, never judge your work before it's done, because all judgment stops creativity. And that is such a profound, prolific, whatever you want to say, statement that is just the best, like one of the best things or advice that you can give anybody is like, don't judge your work while you're doing it, because it isn't finished. Of course you're going to find flaws. And again, of course, you're going to do that to some extent, because you're going to, paint, and you're like, oh, that doesn't look quite good, let me try this, let me kind of do this. But don't let that be like a tar pit. Don't let that slow you down. Don't judge yourself too harshly, because you don't want to, like I said, you don't want to slow yourself down or stutter your progression through that. Just, go through it to the best of your ability, use all the techniques and all you can do is practice. Is just going to make perfect. So, maybe you're not the best now. I'm still not the best by any means, by any stretch of the imagination. There's a gentleman, I guess I could say is kind of my local area. He is an amazing painter. I don't, the way he paints metal is insane. The way he paints his armor and metals, and you see him too on the internet all the time as well, other similar styles. But I don't think he touches a metallic paint at all when he paints his metals, and it's just crazy how he does it, and I still don't really know. But it kind of gives so it's kind of you don't want to judge yourself by these elite painters, these super professional painters. You just got to go off of what you know and just get better yourself. Because really, at the end of the day, your only competition should be with yourself. Your only competition should be who you were yesterday, who you were as a painter, person, whatever. Should be who you were yesterday or, previous. You just want to be better than you were before. And just practicing and painting, getting better and better, it's really an amazing thing. And then, reaching out, watching YouTube videos, and all those things as well can also help with that motivation. Learning new techniques, trying them out, seeing that they work, and then suddenly you're like, wow, that's amazing, that works, that's awesome, I just learned this new technique, this is awesome, I'm gonna go on and do it. Same thing goes with converting. As I convert models and I try new things, it's a great motivation to see. And then sharing your work. There's gonna be people out there that are gonna talk whatever. You call them keyboard warriors. That mask, that distance, whatever. It's a part of society now, unfortunately, that you have people that are brave, as in they feel like they can talk so negatively about somebody who's putting their work out there, for people to judge. So right there, it's a brave step forward anyway. But obviously they have no fear of a repercussion, really, other than somebody else talking back to them on the internet, oh, boo-hoo. But they don't have that fear of getting kicked in the nuts, for lack of a better term. if that was a legit fear that they had, that if, they know they say whatever, and like you're gonna show up, ring their doorbell, and kick them right in the nads, like they may think twice before talking what they do. Some will probably still risk it, and then when they get a kick in the nuts, they might rethink it next time. But unfortunately, that is not the society we live in, where you can just ring somebody up and be like, hey, those things you said to me on the internet, hey. Now, there's a difference between constructive criticism and obviously the internet trolls that find their way onto just about anything you will ever share, including, like I said, like I like to share a lot of conversions that I do and that are works in progress. And by far, the two comments that will always come up, and I just kind of brush them off by whatever now, because no matter how many times you try to explain it, they'll still be like, well, you should do this because it'll be better. Mold lines and drill your barrels. Man, those get so annoying to hear. Like it says work in progress or WIP whip, and they will still come out of the woodwork and be like, "Oh, you need to drill your barrels. Cool conversion, but your barrel is not drilled, so." Or, "Oh, there's a mold line there that you." And so they basically are saying like, your conversion's all right, or your painting. Well, painting's a little bit different because you can drill your barrels after. It's the mold lines that if you miss one, sometimes that can be frustrating. Not because they're pointing it out necessarily, but because usually by then it's a little too late because then you'll have to repaint that whole area. So mold lines, you definitely want to make sure you get those done before you get painted as best you can. But the drill barrel thing is still kind of a minor thing that people like to bring up, like, oh, drill your barrels. I mean, if it's a work in progress painting, a lot of times I won't have sometimes I just won't get to it then. I try to drill my barrels before painting anyway, but there'll be sometimes I'm just in a hurry for whatever reason I didn't do it, and yeah. But yeah, so it's just, I don't know, it's just, I guess, part of the course, whatever you want to say, but I wouldn't let them demotivate you in any way, because the nice thing about sharing your work is the positive numbers of comments will far outweigh any of the negatives, usually bar none. I mean, I guess there's been a few instances where you just see some really, like, literally atrocious stuff that is almost kind of wondering if the original poster wasn't trying to start something. But sometimes there's young kids in those groups too that are just trying to share their work and just, are proud of what they've done. So that's kind of, as long as you're happy with it, be happy with it. Don't just, and if you share your work to help get that motivation from the comments, like, that's great. But also, again, expect there to be those negative comments and those trolls that come out to kind of pick your stuff apart. But then also look out for those positive critiques. I can't even think of the word now. But look for those as well. The constructive, there we go, the constructive criticisms, because those will help you just as much as the confidence building from the positive comments. Because when somebody's being constructive, they're trying to help, and then you take that and you use it to make yourself better. So those are just things that I like. Like, I like to share my work on the different things and see people's comments, and they're like, "Wow, I never even thought of that," or whatever the comment might be, and that really helps me to stay motivated in the hobby. So that, included with watching videos on different techniques and styles and stuff, definitely helps. And then for myself, taking a break, really honestly, taking a break, maybe reading more into the lore of whatever I'm, particularly painting at that time, or maybe just reading something completely non-40K or non-hobby related in general. Just taking a legitimate break sometimes can just be just as refreshing, just as motivating to come right back a week, 2 weeks, to even a month or more, just depending on how long you need to take a break. Because really, you don't need to be going 24/7 full steam ahead. But then a lot of times you'll start to find yourself drowning in plastic. Even though you are going 24/7 full steam ahead, it seems like you can never keep up. So the next thing I would say, you know what, and this is where that attempts at coherent thought come in, because I had it and then I just lost it. What was I going to say? You may see a time lapse here as I am attempting to grab that thought again. All right, I'm back. I figured it out. I remembered it. Just came to me. So, deadlines. Setting deadlines can also be a motivation. Whether it's just like by this time I want to be done with this, I want to be done with that. But then signing up for events, whether it's gaming tournaments or even like a painting competition of some kind, where there's an actual deadline for submission, or with like tournaments, like the tournament is this day. They usually have like a 3-color minimum, but like you can say like, I want my army to be fully painted, or maybe I just want to get my army up to a 3-color minimum by the time of the tournament. So then it starts to kind of deadlock you in more of like, I have to get this done by this time. So like now like, okay, I need to get this so much stuff painted before the tournament, because I've done that before where I'll have a tournament coming up. I start to kind of build my list. I'm like, okay, here's kind of my list. This is what I want to take. This is stuff I have painted. This is the stuff I don't have painted. So what can I realistically get done before the tournament? And if not, I need to have a secondary list ready of other painted stuff and go from there. So usually I'll kind of have two almost lists where I'll have like a fully painted list or a close to fully painted list, and then one where a lot more needs to be painted, and I'm hoping to get that list. That's like my primary hope is this list, but I have a backup list should I need it. And then from there, then it's kind of scheduling out your time, knowing, okay, I've got 2 months, a month, or whatever to get whatever painted. So this first week, I need to work on getting this 5-man squad or this 10-man squad or this vehicle done, or, depending upon how long it takes or how much time you get, you might need to schedule more time or whatever accordingly, but setting it out on a calendar, knowing a lot of times I'll be like, okay, so day 1, I know that I can assemble. If it's not already assembled, I can assemble and prime and then probably base coat at the minimum first day. That's pretty easy. Next day, I'm going to start putting my base layers down of like all my different colors on the thing. Depending upon how many that is, it may take 1 or 2 days, depending on how much time I have on those days, but I can, you just kind of judge it on your speed, your schedule, your life, and kind of go that way. And then the next day, okay, now I'm going to do shades, or I'm going to do my edge highlights, or whatever. Then I'm going to do my basing. And now in that first week, I've got that unit done, that vehicle, whatever, done. And then like you can kind of do that, whether it takes you, like I said, 1 week, 2 weeks, whatever for a unit, and go for there. Like I've done it before where I've got like a 5-man squad, and I do one complete model of that unit a day. So Monday, one from start to finish. Tuesday from start to finish, and by the end of the day, I've got a completely done unit. I've also done it where I've taken a 5-man unit, and I've done that breakdown of base, the base, primer, base, and then layer and whatever. But to the point where I've done that on each model, kind of assembly style. Kind of assembly style where, like I kind of pick it up, do all, I don't know, warpstone green, put it down, next one, all the warpstone green, put it down, put it up, next one. So I'll do like one color, go through, next color, go through, next color, go through, and then just all the way to the end, and then last day, I'm done. 5-man squad completed, or whatever, however many it is. So that's one thing, or probably my favorite is that having some sort of a set deadline, knowing that by this day or whatever, I've got this coming up and I need to get this done. Like that I would say that's probably my favorite of my motivations. Because those other things definitely help, like diversifying, changing from building to painting to converting, and kind of like, shell gaming those around as you will, to watching videos, taking a break, just reading some of the lore, all of that is definitely motivating. But I would say, so my 1 and 2 kind of interchangeable, kind of tied. Really for me is the deadlines for events, but then the conversions thing. Like I really, really enjoy doing conversions and things that people haven't seen, because the comments, the feedback I usually get from that are highly positive, because people are like, wow, that's amazing, that's awesome, I can't believe, like, I didn't think of that, or I've thought about that, and you just put into reality what I was thinking as well. And like that is some of the most motivating things for myself. And so like while that's converting, it has almost zero to do with painting and otherwise hobby building or whatever, just the regular stuff. It still motivates me. It's like, yeah, you know, that's a good recharge, a good positive whatever. Now let me get back to painting all this stuff. So I would say those are kind of the two things. So the deadline thing can be kind of stressful, kind of that stressful motivation of like, I got to get this done. And then the converting things or sharing some of my work, some of the painting and stuff too. Because one thing I do like too with doing like one complete model, especially with like my Death Watch, doing those one at a time was nice, because I tried to incorporate like the chapters that they were different kind of personalities and iconography and bits and stuff that kind of made them unique and kind of brought their chapter into the Death Watch more. And then as I completed that one model, I would share it and I would get such positive feedback, and then it would give me good motivation to start the next one and do the same thing. So again, it can be kind of based on your particular project you're working on as well, like what is going to motivate you to I guess kind of share your works in progress, or even your kind of completed progress, because that was kind of like a completed model, but the whole unit in general was not finished yet. So even sharing a completed model, like one model from your unit, can also help to motivate getting that positive feedback as well. So those are all just kind of some examples. So, but yeah, so hopefully that all kind of makes sense somewhat. I kind of jumped around a lot, but like I said, I'd say it's the balance thing with family life and all that. It's just kind of, it's always going to be kind of one of those hard struggles to do with a family. Especially if you have, you know, a bunch of young kids or more kids. Like, I'm definitely looking forward to my kids getting older, not just from the self-sufficient standpoint, but just from their interest already that I've seen them take in wanting to paint and be like a little bit more creative with that. They're still a bit young. My oldest is still quite a bit young to really jump too much into it. I've actually bought a few kind of like D&D models, and she has painted them, just kind of slapped paint on them and whatever, and then, you know, plays with them, whatever, with her other kind of stuff. And then my next oldest, he's definitely taken an interest and has a bunch of just the models, like kind of like the cheap pushed together Space Marine models that he uses and plays with his Lego guys and everything else. And he's kind of painted, but he's still a bit younger. And then my youngest one is just learning how to walk. So can't quite hold that paintbrush quite good enough yet, but she'll get there. But, you know, just trying to kind of bring the family into it too, to make it more of kind of a family hobby as well. While it's not necessarily something my wife is completely interested in for like her hobby interests, which is fine. I mean, the kids are definitely showing an interest, which is good. So if they are interested, then hey, you know what? Let's do it. If they decide later whatever they're not interested, well, you know, that's fine with that too. But I do think having some kind of a productive hobby of some kind is a good outlet for stress and just things in general, because, you know, we all know life kind of can get pretty stressful anyway, and I find it very therapeutic, even with the deadline motivation. Even though that's a different kind of stress, it's still therapeutic to get that stuff done and just to kind of zone out, listen to music, listen to an audiobook, whatever, and just paint. It's just, I don't know, I find it very calming and therapeutic for sure. But yeah, so definitely finding that balance. And then if you have a family or don't have a family, another aspect that most people have finding that balance is with work. Obviously, if you don't have a family, it's going to be a bit easier as far as, you know, you can usually probably come home and paint and not have to worry about that. But a lot of times people may have work and school. Like I myself right now am a college student, a full-time employee that has nothing to do with the hobby, and a father of 3 children and a husband. That is a pretty full plate. It could be a really hard really hard juggle. Um, and it's just really trying to find the time any way you can at that point. But like I said, for those that maybe not have may not have a family, but they're a student. So I mean, they got to study, get homework done, and work. Again, it's just scheduling out your time to the point where obviously the biggest enemy or whatever you want to say to progress is procrastination. So making sure that you're not either putting your painting in front of getting your schoolwork done or getting to work on time or anything like that. So definitely prioritize your things. I would say probably school would probably be the number one thing. You want to get your schoolwork done. And then once that's completed, then as your reward and your de-stress thing, now is your hobby time, your hobby painting and all that. I'm definitely, as far as my schoolwork, knowing all that too, and just with how things can pop up constantly with the family as well. As soon as the assignment and the week starts and everything comes out, and hey, this is what needs to get done. I get it done as soon as possible. So then the rest of the week, I know I don't have to really focus too much, other than here and there maybe kind of. But for the most part, school is done, out of the way, and now I can work on work and family and then hobby. Because unfortunately, it probably for myself it's always family first, then work, because I have to pay the bills and feed everybody, and then school, and then the hobby. I would say I'd probably, if I could, go family, hobby, and then work and school. But those other things are also very important, and hopefully before too long I'll be finished with school, and then I'm gonna probably take somewhere around no more than a year off before I start my master's program, just because I'm going full time with everything else going on is not the easiest thing, so I'm definitely gonna need that break. I took a break after I finished my last degree to this degree plan now, so it was definitely a nice break, but now getting back into it, it's kind of I can't wait for my next break. So not too many more classes before I'll get my next break, and then the real work will start again. But yeah, with that, so it's just kind of prioritizing those things. So if it's work and school, again, you have a little bit more leeway with your free time. But I would say hopefully just the hobby isn't your only socializing. You're getting get out, do other things. I'm sure most people have multiple hobbies anyway, and friends and stuff to go hang out with. You don't want to spend your whole time locked away painting. However, that can be a good keep out of trouble type of hobby, for sure. Because one thing I definitely like to say, not all the time, but I like to at least point out to my wife that I could have worse hobbies like drinking and strippers, that I could be spending all my money on. Instead, I'm spending my money on plastic crack, which different kind of addiction, I guess, but addiction nonetheless. But yeah, so. I would say the best things, if I had to boil it all down and summarize this whole attempt at speaking coherently, so to stay motivated, you need to have balance in your life between the hobby and everything else. I'm just going to lump everything else because your everything else will be different. Everybody's everything else is always different. So figuring out a way that those two can coexist in a symbiotic relationship is pretty key. To staying motivated, because when everything else starts to attack your hobby, which for just about everybody is our de-stressor, our thing that recharges our batteries and gets us back into our everything else. If those things are not meshing and not in a symbiotic relationship, then that's when things can really start to unravel and we can get into some really bad places. So finding that balance is pretty key in general to just staying motivated, because when you don't have that balance, you're not going to be motivated to continue on with the hobby. And then the next thing, like I said, would be the deadlines, setting up events of whatever kind they may be. And then Like I said, kind of diversifying things and sharing your work and getting constructive criticisms and just positive comments in general will definitely help with that. So those three things, things going to be, setting that balance, setting those deadlines, and then sharing your work to get that feedback. Those three things are probably, I would say, the overarching kind of key things to kind of help you stay motivated in your hobby. Now, maybe none of those three work the same for you. Maybe you don't feel the same, and that's fine. Find what works for you, but like I said, this is just my attempts at thinking clearly, my attempts at a coherent thought, and these are things that as I sit down and think about what motivates me, what keeps me going in the hobby in general, I would say it's definitely those three things, plus everything else I mentioned throughout this video. But definitely I will, if you want to skip ahead, I'll put in the comments, skip to the end here, this last bit, to get the three pillars of motivation. Well, that's what I will write a book. We're going to call it the 3 pillars of hobby motivation. And then we'll break it down. So stay tuned for my my book coming out, The Paint Marines 3 Pillars of Hobby Motivation. Balance, deadlines, feedback. All right. Well, hopefully you enjoyed this video. Hopefully I didn't ramble on too incoherently for too long, and you've gotten something out of this whole thing. So thank you for watching. Check out the rest of the YouTube channel. Check out the Facebook page. Put comments down. Just check out what I'm working on. Like, subscribe, share, all that. And until next time.